On the desolate summit of Devil Peak, a lone figure in black robe stood still as stone. Above him, an eerie sight unfolded. The sun and moon shared the same sky, casting both warmth and frost across the land. Raising his arms, the man drew the twin lights into his palms. The world seemed to dim, and a sinister wind wailed through the heavens, carrying the cries of wandering souls. The gale whipped back his hair, exposing a face hardened by cruelty and power. Dark energy surged from his body, cloaking him in a suffocating aura. A twisted smile curled his lips as the mountain trembled beneath his feet. Then, with a thunderous crack, 7 radiant beams cut through the sky. When the light faded, 7 figures appeared around him, each one radiating overwhelming strength. The black-robed man, Shui Yifan, sneered. The 7 emperors themselves. What brings you to Devil Peak? Have you not always looked down upon my demonic path? The white-bearded sword emperor stepped forward with disdain. Demonic Emperor Shui Yifan, do not play the fool. You know well why we are here. Hand over the 9 Serenity's secret records. Shui Yifan stiffened. Just a month ago, he had risked his life to obtain that legendary inheritance. How could they have discovered it so soon? His eyes narrowed. Zhao Chen. Come forth, he roared. From behind the 7, a young man in white robes stepped out, smiling lightly. He bowed, his tone playful. Master, did you call for me? Rage flickered in Shui Yifan's eyes. Was it you? Did you betray me? Yes, Zhao Chen admitted without hesitation. And I broke the protective array as well. Why, boy? Shui Yifan's voice thundered, his fists trembling. I raised you as my own. Have I wronged you? Zhao Chen's smile faltered, but he stood his ground. You gave me kindness, yes. But you also overshadowed me. You seized the title of 8th Emperor while I remained in your shadow. And when you obtained the secret records, you even kept them from me. If I stayed with you, I would never surpass you. Shui Yifan's expression grew bitter. He had hidden the records only to protect Zhao Chen, knowing the youth was too weak to withstand their dangerous secrets. But now, everything had crumbled. His laughter rolled across the heavens. Good. Very good. If betrayal is what you choose, then today I shall let you taste the true power of the 9 Serenities. The 7 emperors prepared for battle. The Sword Emperor raised his blade, scoffing, show us, then, the extent of your stolen power. Dark energy exploded from Shui Yifan, thousands of black palms descending from the sky like a storm. The emperors faltered, shocked at the overwhelming force. Impossible. Has he broken through to the sacred stage? Sword Emperor gasped. Even Zhao Chen felt terror gnaw at his heart. He had betrayed his master, yet never imagined Shui Yifan had grown so terrifyingly strong in just 1 month. But before Shui Yifan could crush them, a holy radiance descended. A divine figure wreathed in light appeared, the saint of the sacred domain. With a single strike, his brilliance shattered Shui Yifan's attack and pierced his chest. Blood spilled, but Shui Yifan's gaze burned with defiance. He pulled out a multicolored jade slip, the secret records themselves. Gasps erupted among the emperors. Shui Yifan sneered. Saints, emperors, righteous sect, in the end, you are no different from demons, all coveting my treasure. But even in death, you will gain nothing. With a final laugh, he crushed the jade slip. At once, his body erupted in a devastating self-destruction, leveling Devil Peak in a storm of destruction. When the dust cleared, only the saint remained unscathed, his clothes torn but his body untouched. His cold eyes swept across the land before vanishing back into the heavens. The emperors, shaken but alive, finally breathed in relief. To them, the demonic emperor was no more, his legacy destroyed forever. Yet in the silence of the ruined mountain, the shadow of Shui Yifan's laughter seemed to linger still. Chapter 2, The Demonic Rebirth. The night was drowned in darkness, even the moon veiled behind layers of oppressive clouds. In the depths of a lonely forest, corpses were scattered like discarded husks, the remnants of a merciless slaughter. A stench of blood saturated the air, drawing scavenging beasts that gnawed and tore at the fallen. Ugh! Amid the grisly feast, a faint groan slipped from within the mound of bodies. The beasts froze, ears twitching, and crept cautiously toward the sound. Crash! A pair of corpses were hurled aside, and a youth drenched in blood forced his way out from beneath. For an instant, the animals retreated in alarm, but realizing their prey still breathed, they bared their fangs once more. Yet the youth did not flinch. He sat there in a daze, muttering to himself. Is this, me? His eyes drifted down to his trembling hands as though unfamiliar with them. Awoo! A wolf sprang from the shadows, jaws wide to claim his throat. The boy's head lifted. Beneath the mask of blood, his gaze sharpened, erupting with a murderous aura like twin blades piercing into the wolf's soul. Whoosh! The beast froze mid-pounce, its body shuddering uncontrollably before it bolted into the trees. The pack, sensing death itself in that gaze, fled in every direction. Silence returned. The boy exhaled slowly and shut his eyes. His name, Shuafan. Age, 15. A servant of the Luo clan within Cloud Manor. Just days ago, his life had been unremarkable, filled with small duties and quiet peace. That peace was shattered when the Blackwind Mountain bandits descended, drowning the manor in blood. Escorting his young master and miss into the wilderness, he had fallen here beneath the bandits' blades. At the threshold of death, unwilling to yield, his desperate obsession became a beacon, drawing in the lingering spirit of a fallen sovereign, the demonic emperor, Shui Yifan. A strange light flickered in his eyes. Ha ha ha. Sword Emperor Zhao Chen, you would never believe that the Nine Serenities Codex hid a possession art that requires no vessel's soul. Just wait. I will return to the sacred domain, and when I do, your heads will decorate my path to vengeance. His manic laughter rolled through the night, scattering the carrion beasts to the wind. Cough. A hoarse cough pulled him back. His hawk-like gaze cut toward the sound. Help, me. A Luo clan guard half buried in corpses struggled weakly, blood spilling from his lips. Humph. What use are dying ants to me? His eyes narrowed, and he turned away. The old Shuafan might have rushed to help. But he was no longer that boy. He was Shui Yifan, the demonic emperor. Mortals were dust before him, why save dust? Yet after a few steps, he halted. Lowering himself cross-legged, he examined his body. Moments later, his eyes lit with a wild gleam. 15 years old, yet never once cultivated? Untouched, unspoiled, perfect. In the martial emperor continent, nearly all practiced cultivation. Farmers, merchants, even children reached at least the first or second stage of foundation establishment. To find a youth this pure was rarer than gold. And the greatest of demonic arts, the Demon Transformation Codex, required precisely such a vessel. With it, one could devour the cultivation of others, seizing heaven and earth themselves. This was the technique born of the Nine Serenities Emperor after stepping into the Emperor's realm. He had even considered destroying his own foundation to begin anew, only to fall before his rival's schemes. That even such a figure would hesitate revealed the art's terrifying potential. And now, Shui Yifan had inherited the flawless vessel fate had prepared. Turning back to the wounded guard, Shuafan dragged him from the corpse heap. The man's dull eyes brightened faintly. Shuafan, it's you. Thank you. I'll repay this debt when we return. He, why wait? You can repay me now. A wicked smile curved across his lips. The guard's heart sank. Though familiar with the youth, this expression was that of a predator savoring prey. Shuafan, what are you? But the boy only muttered to himself, grin spreading wider. Second layer of chi condensation. A firm cultivation. Excellent. Unlike ordinary methods that absorbed the world's chi, the Demon Transformation Codex consumed the cultivation of others to advance. A healthy cultivator would never permit such a theft. But a crippled, dying man? He could resist nothing. Perhaps even the Nine Serenities Emperor had faltered here, unable to find such prey. unwilling to reduce himself to a helpless mortal. But fortune now smiled on Zhui Yifan. He possessed both a pure vessel and his first sacrifice. The guard's face drained of color as dread clawed at his soul. Why you're not Zhuo Fan. He, correct. A dark laugh rumbled from the youth's chest, his gaze glowing with abyssal malice. I am the demonic emperor, Zhui Yifan, 8th sovereign of the sacred domain. Chapter 3, Ashes of Mortality. In the dead of night, Zhuo Fan pressed his palm firmly against the guard's chest. From his hand spilled black streams of energy, serpentine and venomous, burrowing into flesh. The man's eyes widened in terror before twisting into howls of agony. His pallid face darkened shade by shade, until he looked less like a man than a charred husk dragged from a pyre. Zhuo Fan's gaze glimmered with cruel fascination. The Demon Transformation Codex could seize another's cultivation, yet raw yuan qi was no gentle prize. Left untamed, it would rebel, tearing his own meridians apart. To master it, he first had to corrode it, tainting it into demonic essence, before drawing it back into himself. Slowly, steadily, he inhaled, guiding the corrupted streams into his body. Before his eyes, the guard's figure shriveled, flesh collapsing inward until, at last, nothing remained but drifting ash scattered on the midnight wind. The Codex did not simply plunder cultivation. It devoured life itself. Black power surged like a storm through Zhuo Fan's veins, threatening to burst him apart. Sweat poured from his brow, yet his will remained unshaken. Only by reforging his foundation upon such ruthless power could he claw his way once more to the summit. 2 hours, 4, 6. At dawn's first light, the torrent finally calmed, pooling within his dantian. A dark, abyssal lake had formed there, vast and boundless. His eyes opened. With a single breath, the lingering night seemed to tremble. Birds scattered, and the carrion beasts fled deeper into the forest. It's morning already? To think, the essence of a mere second-layer qi condensation cultivator consumed an entire night. He stood, curling his fist. Boom! A stone beside him exploded into powder beneath a casual strike. Satisfaction curved his lips. His body, reforged in demonic yuan qi, was no weaker than a true cultivator. Yet what startled him most was within. His cultivation base had leapt to the 5th layer of foundation establishment, though the yuan qi remained of qi condensation's grade. This art, his voice was low, tinged with awe and madness. It far surpasses what even I imagined. What others in the sacred domain bled decades to achieve, he had accomplished in a single night. A sinister laugh slipped from his throat. He. Jiao Chen, Sword Emperor, soon you will pay your debt in blood. But his fantasy shattered with a sudden shout in the distance. Zhuo Fan's expression hardened. Though he had tasted power again, he was no longer the unassailable demonic emperor. Prudence, not arrogance, was now his armor. He moved silently through the undergrowth, eyes narrowing as the scene revealed itself. On one side stood the battered guards of the Luo clan, forming a shield around a boy of 6 years and a girl of 18, Luo Yunhai and Luo Yunchang. Facing them were more than 20 men clad in black, led by a familiar figure, the Luo clan's own steward, face twisted with betrayal. Zhuo Fan's lips curled in disdain. So, even here, treachery festers. The memory of his own betrayal rose unbidden, the disciples who had turned against him, and the youth whose death he had inherited, both cut down by traitors' blades. For a moment, he felt a kinship with this family abandoned by their own. But he shook his head. He was no longer Zhuo Fan of the Luo clan. He was Zhui Yifan, the demonic emperor. Ants and their struggles mattered nothing to him. He turned to leave. Yet after only 2 steps, a searing pain clenched his chest. His body froze, breath caught. The 3rd step never came. Chapter 4, Shackles of the Heart. Pain lanced through his chest like a blade of ice. Zhuo Fan doubled over, fingers clawing at his sternum as a white-hot agony drove him to his knees. What is this?" he rasped. "Could my foundation be collapsing?" Fear flared. If his meridians had deviated the moment he had forged his base, the consequences would be ruin, a crippled path, a life cut off from true cultivation. He braced for catastrophe. Then, as suddenly as it had struck, the pain subsided. He pushed himself up, drawing ragged breaths, bewilderment clouding his features. But as he stepped forward, the torment returned, this time searing with a different quality, stabbing not at his body but at his soul. This isn't a mere deviation, it's a heart demon. A cold shadow fell across his gaze. If a cultivator failed to confront a heart demon, madness and destruction followed. He probed inward, searching the tangled threads within his spirit. The truth he unearthed left him grim. Before the possession, this shell had been a lowly servant, a simple youth bound to the Luo clan by loyalty and gratitude. The young miss had treated him kindly, his dying wish had been fidelity, a promise to protect. That single, stubborn obsession, born of grief and shame at his failure, had stirred like an ember and fused with the demonic emperor's dying hatred. Together they had formed a contract, the emperor's soul tethered to the boy's last vow. And that contract had become a chain. Zhui Yifan could inhabit the body only so long as he honored the boy's final oath, to guard the Luo family. Defy it, and the heart demon would gnaw him from within. Curse it, he snarled, fury racking his voice. That fool's last wish shackles me. The sovereign of the sacred domain, bound to serve some provincial clan, what a farce. He ground his teeth until his veins stood out. Once the name Zhui Yifan had sent nations trembling, now he found himself bound to the whim of a dead servant's devotion. If only he had craved vengeance, he muttered. At least vengeance is something I can grant. But servitude, this degrades me. A sharp voice cut through his muttering. Who's there? Show yourself. A practiced killing intent rode that call. Shuafan felt the stare, cold and unyielding, slice through the foliage where he hid. He sighed, casting aside the bush. So I've been found. Very well. I'll face this traitor myself. He stepped into the clearing. Steward's son, flanked by his black-clad men, sneered at the sight. Ha, only a brat. I hoped for something more entertaining. Turning his contempt toward the young miss, he spoke with a poisonous calm. Hand over the returning dragon palm. Do that, and lives will be spared. Refuse, and you and your people will be butchered. As long as I still stand, the captain of the Luo guards hissed, drawing his blade, no harm will come to the young miss or young master. Luo Yuncheng's face was a mask of youthful steel. Steward's son, the returning dragon palm is the Luo clan's heritage, spirit-ranked and passed through our bloodline. It will never be taken by you. Shuafan folded his arms and snorted inwardly. So this was the cause, the ruin of the Luo clan, all for a spirit-ranked palm technique. On the martial emperor continent, techniques were ranked in descending tiers: spirit, profound, earth, heaven, each subdivided into low, middle, and high grades. Spirit-ranked arts were common, rubbish to an emperor who had once commanded legions of methods. For the demonic emperor, such treasures were hardly worth mention. And yet men had died for it. A bitter amusement touched his lips. Young miss, he said casually, it's only a spirit-ranked art. Give it to him. I can trade you another in its place. His voice hit the assembled like thunder. Heads turned in stunned silence, some incredulous, others pitying, many with suspicion. Steward's son barked a mocking laugh. Shuafan, he jeered, what pomp from a mere servant. Give another art, on what grounds does a 15-year-old make such claims? The bandits erupted in cruel mirth. Even the Luo guards exchanged puzzled glances. This boy had always been dutiful, was he speaking nonsense out of fear? Pity flickered in Luo Yuncheng's softened eyes as she scolded, Shuafan, enough. Protect the young master. Shuafan only shrugged. He could reveal the truth, that he now carried demonic scriptures and arts forbidden beneath heaven, but to speak such things here would be meaningless. The world of cultivators was built on names and reputations, a servant's boasts held no weight. Yet beneath his flippant tone, his heart, if it could still be called his, twinged with an unfamiliar tug. The contract's chains tightened at the sight of the young master's vulnerable form, and a tiny, reluctant ember of the boy's old loyalty flared. He had not chosen this bond. But while it held, it shaped him, making him both jailer and guardian, executioner and protector. The demonic emperor's pride warred with the dead servant's devotion, and the struggle had only begun. Chapter 5: Obnoxious Servant. A sharp grin tugged at Xuefan's lips. He could read her intent, though the young miss surely believed him insane. She did not wish him to perish. Her eyes darted for an opening, seeking to place him behind the guard's protection. "What are you waiting for? Drag him back before he shames us further." Luo Yuncheng's command rang out. Before a single guard moved, a blade pressed cold against Xuefan's throat. "Wait." Steward Sun's laughter was a snake coiling in the shadows, his gaze cutting through Luo Yuncheng's with uncanny precision. He, young miss, still so kind-hearted, trying to save a fool who has already lost his mind." Luo Yuncheng's fists clenched, rage flickering in her eyes. "Steward Sun, you would not even spare the deranged?" "Ha ha ha. The deranged or the sane, it matters not. If you wish to save him, hand over the returning dragon palm. Refuse, and more blood will stain the ground." He dragged the blade along Xuefan's cheek with a bloodthirsty grin. The young miss hesitated, lips pressed tight, eyes glimmering with inner conflict. She would not openly defy him, but she would not willingly give up her servant, either. Xuefan's chest tightened with gratitude. Even a hesitant pause was enough to kindle his respect for her. Yet the truth was clear, only he could ensure his survival. His gaze flicked to the bandit poised to strike, a broad man, stout and cruel, wielding power at the 7th layer of Foundation establishment. Doable. A spark of ruthless determination lit his eyes. Yuan Qi gathered in his left palm, ready to strike. "Since you insist, Xuefan will die first, by your hand." Steward Sun spat, sneering at the young miss's pain. "Fatty. Kill him." The fat man's blade rose high, poised to cleave. Then, a resounding thump, followed by the cracking of bone and a scream that pierced the night. His sword had long since slipped from his grasp. Xuefan's hand seized it, and in one swift motion, he severed the man's head. Blood spurted, the heavy head rolling to rest before Steward Sun's stunned gaze. The boy, no, the demonic emperor incarnate, moved with precision and lethality. His foundation was only 5th layer, yet his Yuan Qi possessed the force of a master. A single strike shattered ribs, followed by a seamless decapitation. Even seasoned warriors gaped. The fat man's death was swift, brutal, and undeniable. The bandits recoiled. The Luo guards, meanwhile, stared in disbelief. Could this be the same Xuefan they had laughed with, the honest servant of the clan? The boy they had once scolded and teased now bared fangs like a tiger, leaving death in his wake. For a long moment, silence reigned, broken only by the steady drip of blood from his blade. Time had not waited. Xuefan pressed his advantage, hurling the crimson-streaked saber toward Steward Sun while racing toward the young miss and young master. By the time the weapon struck, he had already reached them. One arm supported Luo Yunhai, the other gripped Luo Yuncheng, and he bolted deeper into the forest. The young miss, still in shock, allowed him to pull her along. Steward Sun's eyes flared as the targets slipped away. "After them," he bellowed. But the captain and the remaining guards formed a barrier, halting the bandits' advance. "Humph, think you can stop them?" Steward Sun's voice dripped with malice. The captain shook his head, a grim smile on his lips. "No, but we can buy them precious time. With you gone, they will never escape. Perhaps not before, but now, they have that boy." The captain's words carried weight, unspoken hope. The guards exchanged glances, trust sparking in their hearts. Xuefan was no longer the meek servant they knew. With him protecting the young miss and young master, their chances of survival had just doubled. Steward Sun's face darkened, fury coiling like a serpent. "That brat dares interfere with my plans. Once I capture him, I will strip him alive. I will make him beg for death." Chapter 6, Arrogant Servant. Shuafan's grip on the young master was unyielding, one arm cradling the boy while the other dragged the young miss along, their flight through the forest marked by the shouts and desperate cries of the remaining guards. "Wait. We can't just abandon them," Luo Yuncheng called out, her voice trembling with anxiety. Shuafan ignored her, sprinting forward with unwavering speed. "Let go," she barked, yanking her arm free. He skidded to a halt, turning to meet her glare. "We can't risk the guards dying for our escape," he said, his voice calm yet unyielding. "And you think you can fight them?" she demanded, brow furrowed. "The others are weak, but Steward Sun commands the 6th layer of chi condensation," she admitted reluctantly. "Even the captain at the 4th layer and I at the 3rd are no match. Returning would be pointless." Shuafan snorted, seizing her arm once more. "Then let's go." The young master wriggled in his hold. "You insolent servant. Apologize to my sister, or I'll make sure your rear feels every lash of pain." Shuafan blinked, momentarily dazed by the child's audacity. The boy bared his fangs, eyes flashing with defiance, while Luo Yuncheng's glare could have cut steel. For a moment, he remembered that he was merely a servant in this body, a minor, expendable presence in the clan. But he no longer was Shuafan. Even the majestic demonic emperor would have ignored such trivialities, if not for the chains of the heart demon. "Brat, your threats mean nothing," Shuafan sneered. "I could make your backside regret speaking." "You dare?" the young master spat, undaunted. Growing up in the manor, he had never feared a servant's scolding. How could he have known the truth? A cruel grin spread across Shuafan's face. He bent the boy over his knee, and in one swift motion, he struck him across the rear. The sharp slaps echoed through the trees, leaving the children stunned. Luo Yuncheng's shock quickly morphed into outrage. She clutched her brother to her chest. "Shuafan! How dare you raise your hand against your master?" She, known for her gentle demeanor and composed nature, could not contain the blaze of fury ignited by his audacity. Shuafan ignored her eyes, voice low and teasing. "Not as bold as young miss herself. You waste time scolding while our enemies close in." The noise behind them had already begun to fade, the guards could not hold much longer. "I only struck him a few times," Shuafan said, nodding toward the boy, "but if we do not move, those men will spill his blood." The words struck deep. Luo Yuncheng's gaze softened. Her brother was the last male heir of the clan. She could risk her life, but nothing could happen to him. After a tense moment, she straightened. "Shuafan, take the young master and escape." "I will stall them." "I refuse." Shuafan growled. "If you leave, I will not let this brat die." "You." She faltered, unable to believe such audacity from a servant. "I have spent my life in your clan, blind to the surrounding dangers." "Leave, and neither of us will survive," he pressed. Luo Yuncheng's anger cooled slightly, his words made sense. But when he added, "Even if I fall, do not follow me, stay alive," her eyes flared anew. She could only grit her teeth, fury and disbelief warring within her. Ignoring her, Shuafan scanned the horizon. "Is there anywhere nearby to hide?" "The farmland stretches for miles," Luo Yuncheng said, pointing west. "Only the western slope of Blackwind Mountain is rarely visited, a fog-laden forest even the bandits avoid." "Then that is where we go." Shuafan nodded. "Carry your brother. Lead the way." She turned, eyes cold, leaving him to trail behind. The siblings could not fathom their misfortune, the master of the manor now accompanied by a servant more arrogant than any they had known. Roles seemed reversed, and humiliation clung to them like a second skin. Never had they endured such disgrace. Chapter 7, Misty Forest and the Wraith Array. After hours of sprinting, the trio arrived at the edge of a dense forest, its trees veiled in a perpetual, swirling mist. Shuafan's sharp eyes darted across the fog, taking in every shadow and movement as though reading the very pulse of the forest. "This is Misty Forest," Luo Yuncheng said hesitantly. "Fog blankets it year-round." Anyone who enters risks never finding the way out. Shuafan gave her little attention, scanning the terrain instead, especially the eastern peak cloaked in clouds. Blackwind Mountain, he asked, voice calm but sharp. She nodded. Legends say the mountain lord's power rivals our fathers. Our clans lived in peace for decades, yet the bandits descended upon us, without reason, without warning. Shuafan's grin widened. Excellent, a perfect playground. He studied the landscape further. Azure Dragon east, White Tiger west, Vermilion Bird south, Black Tortoise north, and the Cheelant's Horn in the center. This is a natural formation. He crouched slightly, muttering to himself. A hidden array, left untouched by those with knowledge. If I claim this place, it could rival my own Devil Mountain. His eyes gleamed with anticipation. Luo Yunchang blinked, astonished by his words. Do you intend to? Shuafan smirked. Young miss, are you suggesting I should annihilate Steward's son and his men here? She froze. 3 against dozens, how could they possibly hope to survive such a confrontation? Luo Yunhai snorted, glancing up at him with a cocky smirk. Stinky servant, quit your boasting. Shuafan shot him a sharp glare, the memory of prior strikes still fresh in the boy's mind. His punishing hand had reminded the young master exactly who held the advantage. Wise men know when to retreat, Shuafan muttered, resting one hand lightly on Luo Yunchang's shoulder. Once we are safe, we will see just how brave you are. Holding her brother, Luo Yunchang asked cautiously, and how do you propose we survive this? Shuafan's smile widened. How many spirit stones do you possess, young miss? Hand them all to me. She narrowed her eyes. And what would you do with them? Ha ha ha. Misunderstood again. I am no rogue seeking to enrich myself. All my actions are for your safety. She smirked despite herself. You call yourself a loyal servant, yet no other could match your audacity. She handed him a small pouch of spirit stones, caution flickering in her gaze. This is everything I have. Betray me, and I will never forgive you. Shuafan accepted the gift with a nod, slipping into the fog like a shadow. Wait here, he commanded. Luo Yunhai stomped in frustration. Outrageous servant. Sister, punish him for me. Luo Yunchang shook her head, watching the mist swallow him. Yunhai, he may be reckless, but he protects us. Better than the so-called strongmen who only pretend to help. The boy pondered this, then nodded. Fine, it's all Steward's son's fault anyway. Luo Yunchang smiled faintly. You're learning, Yunhai. The young master ground his teeth. Still, that stinky servant deserves 100 spankings. Killing him is far too easy for him. Shuafan moved through the fog like a phantom. Spirit stones flew from the ring on his finger, embedding into the ground with precise, silent grace. Though this was his first visit, he traversed the forest as if he had walked it his entire life. In mere minutes, he reached the center, raising his hands and chanting in a voice that seemed to echo through the mists. 9 underworld gates, awaken. For Cardinal Wraith-Array, manifest. The forest responded instantly. Winds twisted unnaturally, shadows coalesced into ghastly forms, and shrieks echoed from unseen corners. The mist thickened, then turned inky black, suffused with the array's eerie energy. The siblings huddled together, hearts pounding in terror. But as quickly as it began, the wails ceased. Light pierced the clouds, and the forest returned to a deceptive calm. Shuafan emerged from the fog, moving like a wraith among the white mist. What just happened? Luo Yunchang whispered, astonished. He waved a hand, dismissing her doubts. Follow me. Despite lingering suspicion, she obeyed, leading her brother. His presence commanded both attention and caution. At a massive, ancient tree, Shuafan halted. Stay here for now. I will teach you how to control the Wraith Array. When Steward's son returns, you can wield it yourselves. What? An array? Luo Yunchang's voice rose in disbelief. Arrays were rarer than martial arts, powerful constructs of energy few could master. Even first-grade arrays could fetch hundreds of thousands of spirit stones at auction. And now, a mere servant had conjured one at will. She could only gape as he disappeared into the mist, ready to prepare their defense. Chapter 8, Bargaining with the Bandits. How is this possible? Luo Yuncheng stammered, awe and fear mixing in her voice. Forget the how for now. Just follow my instructions, Shuafan replied, his tone sharp and commanding. This array isn't just an illusion, it bends the perception of anyone within it. And more importantly, it's a killing array. Wraiths obey it to strike down enemies without mercy. The young miss tried to mimic his movements, stiff and hesitant. But Shuafan's speed was lightning fast, leaving her scrambling to keep up. She managed only part of the final gesture before faltering. Sigh, how can you be this slow? Shuafan snapped, exasperation flashing in his eyes. Even this simplest form is beyond you? Steward's son could be upon us any moment, and if we delay, we'll be eaten alive. Hurry! Luo Yuncheng's pride stung. She had been nurtured delicately, treated like a treasured pearl, always honored and respected. Never had she been scolded, never treated so harshly. And yet, she gritted her teeth and pressed on, tears threatening to fall. Her brother, witnessing her humiliation, clenched his fists. Stinky servant! Don't mock my sister, he yelled, frustration coloring his voice. Shuafan ignored him. Time was too short, and the array demanded precision. His own energy barely sufficed to activate it, he could not control it fully. Without the array's natural power, even a weaker steward's son would remain unharmed, yet he had only 1,000 spirit stones to empower it. Now, the responsibility of control fell upon the young miss, whose chi condensation was only at the 3rd layer. The gestures were complex, the method intricate, and time slipping away. Seeing her struggle, Shuafan stepped closer, wrapping his arms around her from behind and guiding her hands with his own. What are you doing? She exclaimed, cheeks flushing red. Stay still. Let me guide you, he murmured calmly. Her heart raced. Being so close to a man, someone she barely knew, sent a whirlwind of emotions through her. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment. Yet, seeing his unwavering focus, she realized his intent was not sinister. At least he knows when to be honorable. Calm returned, and she followed his lead. For the first time in days, enveloped by his protective embrace, she felt a small sense of security. Meanwhile, a lanky scout approached Steward's son from 10 miles out, breathless. Sir, they've headed into Misty Forest. Steward's son straightened, a cruel glint in his eyes. Good hiding place, we know the mountains, but not that fog. Still, his gaze flicked to the restrained captain nearby. Captain Pang, your turn is coming. Young miss is far too kind to ignore you. I'd rather die than submit to you. Pang spat, fury flashing in his bloodshot eyes. Kill me, and I'll avenge my fallen comrades. Steward's son's lips curled in a sinister grin. Once I obtain the martial skill, I promise you'll see it fulfilled. Now, let us move. The band of 20 pressed forward, closing in on Misty Forest. Yet they had barely advanced when a slow, rhythmic snore echoed from within the fog. A man lounged casually against a tree, Shuafan. Steward's son, it's him. The one who killed the fat man, someone shouted. Awakened, Shuafan yawned, his gaze meeting Steward's son's with calm amusement. No fear, no tension, only a lazy smile. I've been waiting to see you, he said lightly. Steward's son's frown deepened. Studying the servant carefully, he saw nothing unusual, yet he could sense the underlying threat. This was no ordinary servant. This servant hides far too well, and is ruthless beyond measure. Shuafan, boldness is one thing, but don't test me, Steward's son warned, narrowing his eyes. Shuafan cut straight to the point. Steward's son, want to make a deal? A deal? I'll hand over the young master and young miss of the Luo clan. In return, you secure my passage on Blackwind Mountain. Shock swept through Steward's son and even the guard captain. This servant, this seemingly insignificant man, was now negotiating terms, using the siblings as leverage. Why betray them? The Luo clan never wronged you. Steward Sun's voice trembled with disbelief. Ha ha ha. And yet, they have wronged themselves. Their downfall is not my doing. Survival is natural. Using them to save my life is pragmatic. He picked up a red cord, woven with secret markers known only to him. One end secured Luo Yuncheng, with forks along the way that guaranteed safe passage back through the forest. Steward Sun examined it, a wicked grin creeping across his face. Clever, using the rope to chart your path, adding forks to mislead. Truly a double-crosser. He returned the cord. Fine. Deal. Lead the way. But do not think to trick me. I am an honest man, Steward Sun, Shuafan replied smoothly, hiding the storm of cunning behind his smile. Steward Sun sneered. I would have believed you, once. Eyes locked, the two men exchanged smiles that concealed 1,000 schemes. Behind them, the rest of the guards watched silently, uneasy yet obedient, venturing into the misty forest under the tension of unspoken threats and hidden traps. The line of men clutched the crimson rope tightly, each relying on the hands of the one ahead to navigate the dense, swirling fog. Shuafan led, while Steward Sun gripped the rope behind him, ensuring the boy could not slip away. Visibility was nearly non-existent. The mist was so thick that every step was a test of touch and instinct. Deep in the heart of the forest, where escape seemed impossible, Shuafan halted abruptly. What now? Steward Sun hissed, his hand tightening on the rope, tension radiating through his fingers. A sinister grin curved Shuafan's lips. Steward Sun, from here on, we part ways. You'll take the underworld river path without me. Panic flared in Steward Sun's eyes as he realized the trap. He swung at Shuafan, but his hands met only a hollow resistance. The shredded fabric of his grip fluttered to the ground. The real Shuafan had vanished, leaving only the mist and an illusion behind. Impossible. When did he escape? Steward Sun bellowed, fury and fear mingling. Turn back. Quick, he shouted, trying to retrace the rope, but a sharp, cold voice echoed through the fog. The rope has been cut. A thunderbolt seemed to strike their minds. Faces paled. Without the rope, the labyrinthine forest was a death trap. Bring Pang over. Steward Sun barked, his rage mounting. He's gone, a subordinate stammered. Curse that brat. Steward Sun slammed his fist against the earth, a crater forming beneath him. Even a seasoned schemer like him had been outwitted by a mere servant. You punk. I've survived longer than you. Don't think a stupid forest can contain me, he roared, voice echoing in the trees. Ha ha ha, you'll never leave, came Shuafan's laughter, wild and echoing through the mist. Suddenly, the fog thickened and darkened, tinged with a deep crimson. What's happening to the mist? The bandits whispered, unease twisting their voices. Panic spread. Even hardened killers felt the weight of fear pressing down. Steward Sun, what is this? One bandit called, voice trembling. Silence answered. The forest seemed to swallow him whole. One by one, the men clinging to the rope vanished into the fog, as if the air itself had consumed them. Steward Sun's face turned ashen. Could this be an array? Even he, experienced in the arts of battle and strategy, recognized the hand of a master. An array could amplify the will of a single cultivator, wiping out dozens of opponents at once. 100 men could still fall to one true master. Yet being trapped inside one? That was unimaginable. Shuafan, who are you? Steward Sun's voice quivered. He realized this was no ordinary youth. How could a mere mortal create such a force? Had Shuafan wielded arrays from the beginning, they would never have dared pursue him. At the center of the formation, Luo Yuncheng's eyes widened. She observed Shuafan with a mix of awe and trepidation. Shuafan's gaze was cold, merciless. Finish them, he ordered. She mimicked his hand gestures, a mixture of fear and determination in her expression. The crimson fog darkened further, turning black, devouring all light. Only anguished wails echoed in the suffocating darkness. The trapped bandits were powerless, their souls being gradually consumed by the black energy spiraling around them. Shuafan settled cross-legged in another corner of the array, eyes glinting with ruthless delight. Thanks to the 9 Serenity's secret records, his mastery of the demon transformation art allowed him to manipulate the array from within. The bandits descended into madness, and with every shudder, every cry, Shuafan began drawing their yuan qi, feeding the dark tide within himself. Chapter 10, Relentless Ascension. Ashes return to ashes, shadows return to me, 9 underworld wraiths, heed my call. Shuafan's hands moved with precision, taking full control of the array from Luo Yuncheng while erasing Steward's son and his men from her sight entirely. Confused, Luo Yuncheng tried to repeat the hand signs, but it was useless. The forest erupted in tortured screams. The blackened shadows of Steward's son's group writhed violently, their forms twisting as fragments of consciousness were torn away. Every escaping wraith shrieked, as if their very essence were being ripped apart. When the final shadow detached, the cries ceased, and their bodies collapsed into withered husks, crumbling silently into dust. The black forms swarmed back toward Shuafan like a hive of enraged bees, merging into his body. He absorbed them with calm detachment, and soon, his own aura darkened, mirroring the shadows he had claimed. Once the last fragment merged with him, Shuafan began to form intricate hand seals, the practice of the demon transformation art coursing through him. Dark yuan qi roared in his meridians, settling into his dantian. Power surged within him, raw and unrestrained. In the blink of an eye, he leapt through the layers of cultivation. From the 6th layer to the 7th, then peaking the 7th. From the 8th to the 9th, he broke the limits of foundation establishment entirely. Opening his eyes, he clenched his fists, feeling the violent flow of energy throughout his body. This time, the breakthrough was harder. The wraith's yuan qi was nearly spent, yet Shuafan's seasoned skill as a demonic cultivator allowed him to convert even the exhausted energy into a potent surge, magnifying the value of his ascension. Gritting his teeth, he channeled the final remnants of the wraith's power into one last push. Bang! A burst of energy exploded within him. His meridians expanded, flowing violently with renewed yuan qi, before settling firmly in his dantian. He had reached the threshold of qi condensation. Shuafan's eyes glimmered with satisfaction. In his previous life, his meridians had never expanded to such scale. The dantian now brimmed with energy capable of challenging a true qi condensation expert, tripling his former strength. He exhaled and released the wraiths, watching as they faded into gray mist, returning to their original forms. The black fog dissipated, sunlight cutting through the forest canopy. Shuafan now controlled the array entirely on his own, no longer reliant on Luo Yuncheng. A faint smile curved his lips as he looked skyward. Finally. Qi condensation. Time to refine my martial arts. Though Steward's son and his bandits had perished, the real beneficiary was Shuafan. Without siphoning their yuan qi, he would never have reached this stage. Now, his path to greater strength was clear: practice, absorb, and grow. Shuafan. Luo Yuncheng's voice rang out, carrying both relief and astonishment. She held her brother close, Captain Peng at their side. Where did you go? How did the array collapse? Shuafan merely smiled. Perhaps the array lacked sufficient spirit stones, though seeing Steward's son gone is reason enough to celebrate. He kept his secret, revealing the demon transformation art, and his mastery of the wraiths would have painted a target on his back. This time, he would avoid repeating past mistakes. Luo Yuncheng nodded, trusting him without question. Captain Peng, after a moment of hesitation, knelt deeply. Brother Shuafan. I misjudged you. I spoke rashly and doubted your plan. If punishment is needed, even my life is yours. Shuafan smiled inwardly. Loyalty like Captain Peng's was rare. Sighing, he helped the captain to his feet. No need for formalities. You are a captain of the guards. And thanks to young miss, we owe much to the array's assistance. Luo Yunchang blinked in quiet confusion but accepted his words. She didn't understand the full extent of what he had done, yet she trusted him all the same. Captain Peng turned toward her, eyes wide. Young miss, you understand arrays? Blushing, she nodded. Heaven has blessed the Luo clan. With your knowledge of arrays, we rise again. Peng exclaimed, heart lifted with hope. Shuafan rubbed his nose, faintly amused. Luo Yunchang stole a glance at him. If the Luo clan were to flourish, it would be because of this extraordinary man beside them.